Bodybuilding show that John Brown came as a guest poser. He brought the house down. That was something that I would never forget. And this is why I became a bodybuilder. I mean, physique, performance, everything.
And this is, I recognize, Nick Walker, 2024 New York Pro. He wins the show here. He places second. But that gives us a good idea of their structure.
It gives us an idea of their structure, but Nick fans right away will say he is upsized and better conditioned at this year's Pittsburgh or New York. Athletes and fans around the world, welcome to another episode of Primetime Muscle. I'm Tim Wilkins, as always, joined by the one and only super judge from around the world, Tarek Elgindi.
Great to be here. We're getting close to the Mr. Olympia. I cannot wait to see those guys on stage.
I can't either, but we have someone who's going to help us again this time around. Chris has been on sabbatical, traveling around the world.
We have the icon.
We have the icon. The mind. You went from the body to the mind, Milos Sarcev. Is that an upgrade, or you just like being the complete man?
Listen, it starts with mind and ends with mind, right? Body is just like addition to it. But it's great to be back here. I love it. I enjoyed my first show with you guys, and I would always like to do this. Anytime that Chris leaves, just call me.
Well, Chris needs to make sure that you don't get the amount of fan mail that we got last time. As always, like, subscribe, share. Feel free to comment. But last time we got written letters like it was Santa. He was amazing. We love Milos. So you have a lot of fans.
There
know,
go.
Milos, Tim and I, we actually prefer you over Chris. So that's also a huge plus right there.
I'm just a substitute.
That's a huge plus.
Tarek has an issue, but I just got Chris's extra lobster tail last night, so I'm really happy because Chris normally takes a to-go bag of lobster tails.
I love Chris. He's a great guy. We miss Chris. He's just traveling, coaching people. He's making a lot of money, buying his Versace. He should be back soon, but that doesn't take away the fact that I prefer Milos.
All right, so we have an explosive pre-4th of July episode for you. This has been an ongoing battle that's brewing. We love the mass monsters. It's the whole point of the Open, right, Milos?
Yes. I mean, listen, I'm a steady guy. I'm into the shape and hashtag bodybuilding, but I always respect mass monsters. I mean, ever since, I've seen Dorian from 1993 when he showed up looking like out of this world monster, and then into the Ronnie Colemans, Jay Cutler's.
And you competed with Marcus Rule.
Marcus Rule, oh my God, yes. Marcus was the next level. So listen, as much as I like hashtag bodybuilding, I would give it to Dorian back in the day against 90s, my guys, Sean Ray, Kevin Levroni, Flex Wheeler, that I would always prefer their physique. If I'm a judge, I could see why Dorian wins. It's impressive.
So we have two beasts, and Vitaly Goodvito and Nick Walker, who is the mutant. These guys are just massive for their size, for their height.
Yes. Well, we unfortunately didn't have that battle, direct battle between Nick and Goodvito because Goodvito got injured. But he's the next one coming. I know that you knew him from different federation. You kind of encouraged him to come to IBB. He had 3 shows so far. Unfortunately, 2 were in Brazil. So American public didn't have a chance to see him except that one time in Detroit. He pushed Martin, I guess it was like 1-point decision. So we were all so excited for him to show up next to Nick, next to Derek, next to William Boniak and see Martin and see how he ends. Unfortunately, he injured himself and he never made it.
Yeah, there are shows that regardless if you win the show or not, that they put you on the map. When Martin Fitzwater won the Detroit Pro, it was not as impressive as him taking second to Nick Walker. Because now we're going, hold on, you just gave hell to Nick Walker, right? So a lot of people, they perceive a victory as sometimes their moment to the public. No, sometimes you win a show, you're not at your best, and you didn't really impress. Sometimes you place second to a guy that won the Olympia, and everybody's looking at you. I thought that this show, the Pittsburgh Pro, was going to be that show for Goodvito. I thought that based on the pictures, he was going to get a first call out, that people are going to see him next to Nick Walker, and people are going to say, hold on, there's a guy just as big as Nick Walker, maybe bigger in some poses, smaller, and he looked shredded. I thought this was his show. I was calling him the X Factor. Jose Raymond, Milo said, Tarek, Jose Raymond had him in third, and unfortunately it didn't happen, and I'm like, I can't wait to see him next to the big guys. And Milos has a good point. Is he going to get a first call out at the Olympia so that we get to see him next to these guys? Maybe he has the potential. But in Pittsburgh, it was a sure thing because Hadi was not there. Samson was not there. So all of a sudden, maybe he's right there, right? I mean, Leandro Perez was in Brazil and lost to Goodvito at the Arnold Classic, and Leandro Perez was on the first call out.
Yes.
So you kind of have to assume he was going to be right there.
Let's take a look at these two guys as you talk, Milos.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is important because Tarek caught this right away. Both these pictures are from 2024.
Correct. Yeah. This is Goodvito 2024 Detroit Pro. And this is, I recognize, Nick Walker 2024 New York Pro. He wins the show here. He places second. But that gives us a good idea of their structure.
It gives us an idea of their structure, but Nick fans right away will say he is upsized and better conditioned at this year's Pittsburgh or New York, and where he three-peated. He's upsized. Does anybody in their right mind think Goodvito sat on his heels and did nothing? You know he improved. You know he got bigger. His check-in pictures.
Absolutely, we were all raving about him, and I mean, you don't have to be a genius to see this is a man's monster. Those legs are among the best in the world right now or all times. Separation, flair, the sartorius, medialis, lateralis, everything, size, condition, separation. Oh my God, going into the small waist. Look at here. Waist is the size of the quads. Okay. V-tapered, peak biceps, hanging triceps. He's a monster, but I've never seen him in person. I've seen Nick a million times. I've seen him pose in front of me, and Nick looks completely different for people out there. If you see him live, or if you see the pictures or video footage, it's not the same. So I can only imagine a mass monster that he is, and then Goodvito contesting him, which we all, like you said, he would be called out right next to him, and then people would see how good he is. You are as good as your competition. You can win the show against Christmas trees, nobody's, or you can be fifth in a top 4 Olympians. So what is heavier? Obviously, fifth place at Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we all love Dickerson, right? I mean, he was a Mr. Olympia, but, can you say that he was a better bodybuilder than Flex Wheeler? You got to be. I think this guy is one of the, I'm going to go here, okay? I'm speculating. Let me go on camera and say I'm speculating. I think this guy can be on the first call out of the 2025 Mr. Olympia. And I think if he's next to Nick Walker, I think if Goodvito is next to Nick Walker, people are going to be shocked. I think Nick Walker is the big match monster that hits the side chest and overpowers everybody. And then this guy is going to come up and he's going to hit some poses and he might beat Nick. I think his clavicle bones are the largest in bodybuilding. When he hits his front double biceps, nobody has the distance on the clavicles. Does he have a small waist like Samson Dauda? No, he doesn't. And I think his waist improved because he was more conditioned. At the Arnold Classic 2024, I thought his waist was kind of wide. But at the Arnold Classic 2025 that he won, he was better conditioned. The waist was smaller. And I said, this guy is going to be the X Factor.
What makes a waist look smaller?
Well, genetics, of course, and then eating. Now, I was guilty of this back in the day. I was eating 500 grams of protein, 5,000 calories, but I had a small portions at a time. I don't know this time-restricted feeding and then the BS that goes around. Oh yeah, you can just eat twice. You just sit there and kill yourself. Your stomach is going to expand. Keep your meals small. Make sure you train. Now, I had Regan Grimes a couple of days ago on the Old School podcast, and he was afraid of doing ab work because he thought that his abs are going to get thicker. Danny James jumped in and said, like, listen, the biggest regret that he has that he didn't train abs more often. I was training abs every single day. There is a must. That's a muscle that you can control, you can feel it, and you can tighten it.
So hop down here, guys, the both of you. I want to go past the lat spread to the back double bi here. Hop in there, Terry.
But afterwards, I want to go back to this.
yeah.
And I know Milos is dying to go back to that too.
Yeah.
But this is a pose. When you start thinking about Nick being in the first call, his back and his rear delts improved so much at this year's New York Pro. So much that I think he's going to give Derek a run for his money and take a point.
He actually beat Derek in back double biceps, according to Tyler Mannion, according to Chris Cormier and Dennis James. They were in Pittsburgh, So just imagine. For me, it was unimaginable that Derek Lansford can lose back double biceps pose ever, and he beat him. Now, this is not exactly Pittsburgh and New York 2025. This is from 2024, but you can see it. But now, as we talk about the lower body, that he demolished Derek, and that's why he majorly won this back double biceps pose. The hamstring is out of this world. Okay, let's move over here. You see the same thing. This is as impressive as it comes. That's why I'm so bummed that we didn't have a Goodvito going into the show Pittsburgh. And mind you, I'm going to use that opportunity that famous expert was saying that he has no business competing in Pittsburgh. He should just focus on the Olympia. There are no benefits of him competing. There would be huge benefit if all of us would see this on a stage. Just imagine, somebody is giving run for his money in a back double biceps pose. He's that good. So this is kind of things that experts should never talk about.
I agree with you, Milos. A lot of times I don't agree with you, but this time I do. I think when we were at Pittsburgh, sitting down there, what did we see? We saw the hamstrings of Derek not being as cut as Nick Walker, right?
Absolutely.
That was one of the differences. We said Nick Walker is beating right here on the hamstrings. Now, if Goodvito is there, look at this.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not only hamstring that is being seen for this rear view. You can see the quads. And that's what I could see that Derek, before I didn't notice, Derek's quads in the rear view were not flaring like Nick's, and Nick would just demolish him there.
You usually only see flaring quads around the outside on a wellness competitor. You don't see them on a lot of the open guys. So here's what I want to throw at you, because he's got to qualify and get back to the Olympia.
Yeah.
No, he's
No,
already
he's qualified.
qualified.
He's qualified in Brazil.
Why are you trying to disqualify everybody?
You know what? Everything feels like
Okay.
1,000 years ago.
mean,
Prague was like 2024.
He's trying to
No, here's
disqualify
Brazil.
Martin,
Brazil
disqualify
25.
Goodvito.
That was 24, man. It doesn't
man.
exist anymore. So you look at these guys, you put them out. Now you've got these guys. I can't help. So to your point, I want to back up. It's super important when you say, what difference does it make? He should concentrate on the Olympia. When you've got 12, 15, 19 guys who have qualified for the Olympia stage, those judges are remembering things from Pittsburgh, Detroit, Tampa, to where they go, I got to look for that guy for first call out. So where he can be in the mix and compare.
Absolutely. Listen, competing, and I was guilty of competing too much. No, I didn't compete. I wish I entered more than 100 shows. I did 110 shows in my life, 38 amateur, 72 professionals. Every show was like excitement for me. Goodvito would benefit greatly had he been on the Pittsburgh stage. He would be compared with Nick and with Derek and with Martin, possibly Boniak. And this is how you sharpen your tools and you become one of the Olympia top, like you said. Judges would much easier give him comparison after they see him standing and looking that good next to Nick if they saw him at Pittsburgh. Now it's going to be maybe 20-something competitors. And to get the first call out, I know that you are very optimistic. I hope he does. But first call out is usually just 6 people.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be challenging because you gotta, and again, guys, we're speculating. Derek, Samson, Hadi, Nick.
Andrew.
Andrew in his first Olympia did not make the first call out. But I would be shocked if Andrew Jack is not on the first call out. And I also would be shocked if Martin Fitzwater is not on the first call out. But I'm going to say this. that coming up real hot, there's a few guys. You know, Barus Tabani. I mean, I judge Barus Tabani. And if that guy is at the Olympia, I mean, he's going to be crazy. Because as soon as he hits that front double biceps, you see the small waist and the crazy quads, you're going to go like, there's no way this guy cannot be on the first call up. But Goodvito and Barus Tabani are the guys that can get that 5th and 6th spot. I love Martin. I love Andrew Jack. I love all those guys. But this is going to be a dangerous place to be if you're not Samson.
We got to go to break, guys. But we forget this all the time. We get all caught up with our shiny new toys, with our Barus Tabanis and Martin Fitzwater, and we forget there's a William Bonac and a Brandon Curry looming in the wings, and we go, oh yeah, that's our top whatever.
There is Hunter Labrada. There is Regan Grimes now. There's going to be a lot of other additional guys, you know, for sure.
I've heard Hunter is out of this Olympia.
He's out for this Olympia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Krizo's out for this.
Shocked me.
Yes. So, all right, we're going to go to break. We're going to come back, and we're going to pick the mind of the mind on some of his most impressive bodybuilders he ever had to go up against when we come back. All right, we are going to continue to try to capitalize on having Milos with us. You have such a rich history in the sport, all your competitions over just a phenomenal era. We got to ask, who are some of the most impressive competitors you had to go up against?
All right. First, let me tell you just my history. I grew up in Serbia. I didn't know what bodybuilding is until I've seen a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I didn't realize that, oh, man's body can look like that. That's what brought me into the bodybuilding. Fast forward to 1983, day after I came out of the military in Yugoslavia, there was obligatory 1-year army. There was a bodybuilding show that John Brown came as a guest poser. He brought the house down. There was something that I would never forget. This is why I became a bodybuilder. I mean, physique, performance, everything. And I do remember, I told this story one time, we could come close to the John Brown he was hanging around. And I do remember that I really want to reach out and touch his bicep. I mean, there was like, I want to see if this is real. Like, oh my God, it's here in front of me. But there was so many Serbians coming down on him. So he took a bunch of photos and threw them in the air, just, you know, for people to go away. And then he ran away. So I was one of those seeing the picture, and I came down to get it, and somebody kicked me in the eye. And I had a black eye for weeks afterwards. But anyway, so John Brown was that guy that first time in person I've seen magnificence. Then I came to the United States, and I competed in my, the Miss Universe is different federation. Chuck Sano is the gentleman that really impressed me right there. But not until 1988 when I went to 88 Olympia that Lee Haney won. And if you remember, there was Lee Haney winning first, second, third place, and then everybody else, the rest. I have never seen anything like it in my life on the stage. Then 3 years later, I competed with Lee in his last bodybuilding show. And I do want to say to the people, you have no idea if you've just seen the video footage. Seeing him live in person was completely different. Backstage, he didn't even warm up. Everybody was warming up. Sean Ray, Lila Brada, they were talking big. They're going to beat him. Dorian Yates, Shadow, you know, one night of the champions. He's coming after the title. Everybody was there to possibly dethrone Lee, because if you remember 1990, he didn't look as convincing. 1991, he showed up at his best time ever. I do remember when he took the jacket off 5 minutes before the stage, didn't even pump, didn't do one push-ups or nothing. Everybody just lost their breath. I've seen Dorian's face change, Sean Ray sit down, Lee Labrada. The show was over right there. This is how great Lee Haney was. But uh, who impressed me the most when I competed throughout the 90s, and I've been with Ronnie Coleman from 92, 93, competing all these years until 97, last show of the tour, Russian Grand Prix, when he showed the glimpse of what is coming in 98. There was already like, wait a minute, that's the same old Ronnie that we all know. And we knew potential, but we didn't know that he can be that good. 98, he showed up in San Francisco, lost that show to Kevin. That's the last time he ever lost to Kevin or lost to anyone. He went to Canada.
Didn't he lose to Gunter right after that, or was that just before
Yeah,
that?
yeah, later. Yeah, right. Yeah,
I do know
forgot
some
about this.
history.
Yeah. So Canada, Night of the Champions, and he came to Olympia. If you guys remember, Flex Wheeler supposed to win that show. That was his show to win. Nobody could even come close. Nasser somebody narrowly lost to Dorian Yates, 97. We all think he should have won. Here comes Ronnie, and I tell you this, he was in the locker room with me. And I touched the biceps of John Brown, and I had to touch the hamstring of Ronnie Coleman because he bent over, and there was ropes that you don't even. This is like steel. It was like, too many. Anatomy chart doesn't have that many, and it was like touching steel. He was so conditioned that this is that once in a lifetime condition. Needless to say, he won that show and then became 99 Ronnie. Did we go to European Grand Prix Tour with Kevin and Flex and Dexter and Nasser and all that. If you remember British Grand Prix, that was probably one of the freakiest editions of Ronnie Coleman. So I would always say Ronnie Coleman is that guy. But also being a purist, loving the aesthetics and shape. 1989, I go to California State Championship. I was a heavyweight, and light heavyweight, Flex Wheeler showed up. He won, and he won the overall. Most beautiful body I have ever seen in my life. Then he goes into the winning the USA, looking spectacular. But not until that Ironman, and especially Arnold Classic 1993, that condition is a poster child of a bodybuilding. You cannot go wrong. That's the best body I have ever seen.
Wow.
Now, Milos, this is so fascinating. I mean, God,
Mm.
we can do about 7-hour episode.
Yeah.
Go back, please. Go back to that show in Russia where you saw Ronnie Coleman and you said, well, things are changing here. What made you think that? Was it his conditioning, his size, a combination of his demeanor? What made you catch at that Russian show that something abnormal was about to happen in the history of bodybuilding?
Okay. Because I follow Ronnie since the beginning. We went to Hong Kong and China, Orient Tour back in 92. I hang around with him. I know him. We went to Barcelona, traveled around the world. And it was always that big Ronnie, big Ronnie, big Ronnie. But there was still not glimpses of, okay, the shoulder is expanding, the legs are filling up, the back is becoming monstrous, the biceps is peaking like nobody's else. That the conditions start getting better. I'm going to tell you, in European Grand Prix tours, we would be flown by the promoters into the Finland, into the different countries. Ronnie had to take a train. He couldn't afford it. So while we go there, he was on a train. It takes him 10 hours instead of 1 hour. He would stick with the diet. He would have his food. I can say even this, there was the one time I do remember he opened that Tupperware and the food was stinking, so I guarantee bad, chicken and egg and whatever else, but he would eat it. He would be so precise while everybody else on the tour was maybe slipping and eating this and eating that. Like fast forward to Russia. When we went to Russia, they took us to the restaurant. Everybody was eating anything. Kevin Levroni was drinking kvass, if you remember. No, not Ronnie. And that was a famous story when he went to the Kevin's room and Kevin gave him some vodka, to dehydrate him.
And Ronnie never been a drinker.
Never been a drinker yet. And he came dry as a bone. And then you could start to appreciate, hold on a second, that's like perfect body. Super small waist, flaring thighs, and just a monster. Especially aesthetic monster. He was not just a monster at that time. So right there, Kevin won 6 out of 7 shows. Kevin was Kevin. I mean, Kevin at his best. I don't know how that man ever became a Mr. Olympia. And Ronnie took it away from him. It was not even close. And Kevin would tell you that the same thing. So at that time, Ronnie was, mind you, he was drug-free until 1995. People don't want to believe that. People want to think, no way, Milos, you're smoking crack. I was around the Ronnie. I know Ronnie. We traveled in Europe. I would have my things. They search. They find everything in my suitcase. And he didn't have anything. He had a vitamin box. He saw it from me. I put the B, C, E, multivitamins. This is the box that he had. He would never touch anything until Flex Wheeler, 1995, explained him, if you want to play with the big boys, you do what big boys do. Oh, what big boys do? and there you go. And it was never ending. I mean, we talk about Samson just growing. So, picture 98, Ronnie Coleman, and then see what happened by 99.
I'm sorry, I just have one more question because I think this is what a lot of people think. Do you think that the fact that Ronnie Coleman went so far without any gear helped him tremendously once he started taking the gear, or it was just his genetic disposition once he started getting the gear?
Yeah, well, genetic always have a big role, but as you know, genetically, he went just so far. He qualified for Olympia twice drug-free, which is you have to take after him. But it was not Ronnie that would battle for the title. He was top 6 guy. I mean, I was there. As I say, I beat Jay Cutler 3 out of 4 times. I beat Ronnie 6 times.
You never mentioned that, Milos.
You beat Ronnie 6 times?
6 times when he was drug-free. Okay, yeah, I'm going to define that. Once you start taking gear, that was all over for me and for everybody else. So yeah, if you pointing out to this, anybody, youngsters, don't reach out for supplements, super supplements right away. I trained 7 years before I started taking.
17, 18, 19 years old now, 20 years old, going hard and heavy.
It's a nonsense. It's a dangerous. And if you talk about, I can just mention, anabolic steroids are not dangerous. In general, it's, hear me, they promote constructive metabolism, building, not destructive. So if used wisely, carefully, not misused, abused, used too long, too much, and all that stuff, it can actually enhance the health. Of course it can. So there are benefits, but because everybody is abusing, it's bro science, more is better. If Tarek is doing 1, Tim is going to 2, and I should take 5. And this is really how it goes. So please, while Bob Chikril went live and said that those old-timers were lying about their dosages, okay? Maybe they were not that low, but all of us back in the 90s, it's very reasonable amounts, and that's why we are still here. I mean, I had never a single negative side effect of anabolic steroids. I take from 1987. I'm still on TRT, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, if you use it wisely, you can, tell the difference in a positive way.
Well, I think it's impressive how far Ronnie went. Always with drug-free. I wonder where they get that because I had to pay for mine. It's not what they meant, was it?
No,
By
no,
drug-free.
exactly.
This is always such amazing. The stories are amazing, but that kind of insight is invaluable to our younger viewers and even our older viewers. More is not always better. Younger is not a great place to start. These are the kind of messages we hope that are getting out. from legends in the sport who are still actively coaching to this day, bringing people to their absolute best. So with that said, there are other things that come up with, are these best for my bodybuilding career as an amateur or a pro? And we'll talk about that when we come back, Derek.
When we come back, yes. And remember, guys, you want to have longevity in sport, you need to have endurance. I recommend you go right now to www.globalformulas.com, get your endurance, and keep your bodybuilding career for a long time.
Well, we'll talk about that and more right after this. All right, just after we went to break, you and Tarek were talking about the 2003 year. You
Yeah.
said this is crazy.
Yes, because you reminded me that 2002, Gunther Schillekamp beat Ronnie Coleman, and that was correct. At Olympia, he was okay, not that great. Gunther was top 6, but announcing his arrival. Then I went to Amsterdam with Ronnie, and he competed there, won, Chris was second, and then they flew to a GNC show, and he lost. Now, if you remember, 2003 Ironman, Jay Cutler looked out of this world. 2002, Gunther Schillekamp beat Ronnie. So Flex Magazine organized a photo shoot in my gym, Colosseum Gym back in the day, and it was going to be 3 of them. Okay, Gunther was there smiling. You know, he always had that never losing smile, and Jay was rightfully convinced he can take the title, right? Because he looked amazing. But then I remember I was there with Jay. He was doing some biceps curls. And then somebody came in. There was eclipse. I mean, there was like dark. You know, the whoever came through the door was like, holy shit. You know, like one of those moments when in movies, when music stops and you can hear everything. And here is boom, boom, boom. Monster gorilla that nobody has ever seen this. I mean, 2003, that version of Ronnie Coleman. It was just like instantly, those 2 guys, just like in 1991, backstage, everybody concluded they can't touch Lee Haney. This was the same moment. Jay just said, oh, monster. And that was it. 2003, at that moment, when we realized the jump that Ronnie made from 2002 to 2003, and we were talking about this expansion and new muscle. So Ronnie was the guy that can probably grow indefinitely. Unfortunately, he started being injured, and we all know that those injuries catch up with him. But that was that body that could go endlessly. Unfortunately, I'm going to say this publicly. Yes, it's macho, and it's great, it's manly to lift that heavy, you know, and that's what you have to pay for. I asked Ronnie in a private conversation, Ronnie, knowing then what you know now, would you train differently? And I said, hell no. I said, well, you know, that's way too heavy. It was light for me. If you can pick it up, it's a lightweight, you know, okay. You know, but I disagree with this. It's really not lifting weight, it's stimulating the muscle. And when you are stimulating the muscle but affecting the joints with the super heavy weight, it's not going to be good longevity. And so that's why I would advise everybody. I'm now 61 years old. All my joints are not not functioning properly, and I didn't do nearly as heavy as Ronnie. Save yourself, stimulate, don't annihilate, like Lee Haney always said.
Well, yeah. So, Milos, going back to that, we're talking about longevity, stimulate, don't annihilate. You're one of the guys that competed the most.
Yes.
And nowadays in current bodybuilding, guys just don't compete as much. Sometimes they compete once a year, and that's too much. Talk to me about, what are the benefits of competing quite often as you did?
So anything in life you do once, you do 1,000 times, there's a big difference. what kind of expert you're going to become by doing 10 repetition, repetition, repetition. But if this is your profession, okay, I entered the first show. I'm going to tell you that this is also a funny story. 1991, I was in Serbia. My father had a stroke, so I went there to be with him. And then after a couple of months, he was getting better, and he said, go back. Now I came back, and 17 days later, there was a San Jose Pro Invitational. I'm a poor bodybuilder, don't have money, but this is not so expensive. It's close by. I live in San Diego, so I'm going to go there just to experience it first time, right? And I really thought, like, let me just stand next to somebody. John Brown was competing, my idol. Oh, beautiful. Albert Backless. Oh, beautiful. Steve Brisbois, Tim Balknap, Franco Centriello, these guys, right? So I'm there. I don't know IBB. I don't know the rules or anything. So I was number 2. And I'm there telling my friend, okay, take a picture, take a picture, take a picture. Wayne D'Amelia is calling my name, for the first comparison and symmetry round. Okay, he called it once, second, third, fifth time. He didn't say Milosharchev. I didn't understand it until he finally says competitor number 2. So I ran there. I won symmetry round in my first competition, and I qualified for Olympia. I was 3rd. Beautiful. So now I'm qualified for Olympia. I don't supposed to do anything until Olympia. Oh no, I got the $3,000. You know what? Now I'm going to pay for my flight. I'm going to Niagara Falls, and I go to Niagara Falls next week. I place 4th. Then I'm going to go to Night of Champions. Okay. Then I'm going to go to Olympia. Obviously, European Grand Prix Tour, 7 shows, beautiful. I did, and then 92. I couldn't every show. Ironman, Honor Classic, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Niagara Falls. I did it. I did them all.
Did your body get better that year? Less? Did it fade or atrophy? And then going into 92, how did that benefit year over year?
I tell you, I was constantly improving when I competed. One time only, 1994, somebody suggested, no, take a year off. Take a year off. And I hate it. First, I was watching the shows, missing. I should be on that stage, and I'm not. I'm in the audience. What the moron. I could have been on the stage. I'm pro bodybuilder. I'm qualified to compete. I could make money. I could make connections. Every time when I competed, I would get some guest posings, some picture endorsements, products and stuff like that. Every opportunity to compete, to step on the stage is a must. And then especially competing with the guys that you eventually want to defeat, right? Like I said, I mentioned my trophies. I beat Dexter Jackson too. He said, you never beat me. I said, I beat you on your pro debut at Honor Classic 99. But, for everybody, there's 5 times more professionals nowadays than back in 1990s. And there is 5 times less competitors now than back then. Night of the Champions in New York, there was minimum 35, 40, 45 competitors on the stage. Now it was what, 11?
11.
Okay, with the 5 times more pros. Explain this to me. Opportunities are just passing by. But as we talk about Goodvito, that example, that was the show, as you said, Derek, you can make him or break him. It could make him standing next to Derek and Nick, and then people around the world, including the Olympia judges, would realize he's that good. Missed opportunity.
Well, it goes back to what you were doing when you were a young, hungry bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It's your business. So if you're getting guest posing, sponsorships, notoriety, you're building your brand on social media because of that, in one way or another, you're building the brand that you have for the minimal amount of time that you have it as a bodybuilder.
Unfortunately, in the 90s, we didn't have a social media.
No, but you had Joe Weider who would sign you to a nice
Yes.
contract and take you down to Parabernal and
Yes, and my gym was the official gym for Flex Magazine photo shoots. So just imagine, every bodybuilder that was worthy had to come to my gym and shoot with Chris Lund. So I would see them all in a top condition. Just imagine if I had that nowadays.
you had back then. You had Pear, Ralph DeHaan, Chris. There was one more that I liked.
Jim Amentler, there was Irv Galb, it was Robert Reef.
Robert Reef.
Robert
I liked
Reef,
him.
yeah. I should Alex Ardenti.
Yeah,
That's
who was still amazing and doing great work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if I can touch that one subject, you were asking what I think if it's better for me to compete more often or take a year off. Listen, when they take a off season, off turns me off, big time. Because what? No, eat big to get fat. Yeah. Bodybuilders should never allow any body fat to be accumulated. So if you are like this in between shows, something that Samson's been doing, right? He competed 12 times with me, in a matter of 2 years. You don't let body fat accumulate. Okay, this is absolute nonsense. So in off season, when basically you can't even take pictures for the magazines, you can't do the guest posings, and really there was the cases back in '90s in Germany. Let's say Nasser somebody would show up, and promoter would be so pissed off that he looked so fat he didn't want to even pay him, right? God bless his soul, Sean Roden, after winning the Olympia, he did some guest posing that was embarrassing, right? Pro bodybuilder, especially at the Olympia level, should never allow this to happen.
I want to cover that in a future segment. We're going to ask you back for sure. Milos, this is very cool.
There's a reason why I'm possibly one of his biggest fans. Every time Milos is on a podcast, I want to listen because you get the true history of bodybuilding. He's one of the most authentic guys. I love Milos. There's no other way around it. I have a man crush on Milos Sarcev.
Hey, kiss.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Like, subscribe, share. We enjoy being the go-to source for IFBB and pro news and all of the things that are the road to the Olympia this year, taking place October 9th through the 12th in Las Vegas. If it's not sold out already, it's going to be very, very quickly. This is a bigger, every year is bigger and better. We thank our sponsors, Global Formulas, Jacob Frank and the team, and for putting out some of the best supplements you can put in your body. On behalf of Primetime Muscle, Milos Sarcev filling in, Tarek El Gindi.
Great to be here.
And Tim Wilkins. We'll see you on the next Primetime Muscle.